What's happening, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to the Crash Bang Boom podcast. Today's guest is fellow podcaster, singer, songwriter, guitarist, and fledgling drummer in Conan Neutron of Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal podcast and his band in Conan Neutron and The Secret Friends. We get into the origins of the band, his new record, The Way of the Neutron, and the process of demoing it and recording it / releasing it. His favorite guitarist, seeing Fugazi live, and some of his former guests on the podcast. So I hope you all dig it. New record is out everywhere March 20th. Crash Bang Boom podcast can be found on all podcast platforms, and if you like what you hear, feel free to give me a positive review, as the support is always appreciated. Feel free to check out any of the 300 plus episodes if you dig it. And with that, here we go. Conan Neutron, Crash Bang Boom.
Crowds go mad with joy.
All right, I'm here kind of mixing it up with Conan Neutron, man. Conan, thanks for coming on the show, man. I'm excited to talk to you, dude. I'm a fan of your podcast, and I'm one of those people that was led to your music through the podcast formerly. Sure. So I'm assuming that you've gotten that, having done so many episodes with so many people, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be that the music was the main thing, and the podcast was like the afterthought. And then around 2020, it just exploded. And after being around since 2014, and so that is more common. The story I always give people probably start tired of hearing it, but people will come to the merch table and be like, "Hey, man, I really like the podcast." I'm like, "Cool, me too. That's why I do it." And you don't need to whisper,
right.
And then I just give them a sticker or something. But no, I mean, it's great. It's wonderful. It's a melding of worlds. I started the show when it was like, oh, I want something to do where I can stay active in the community and in the world of music when I'm not making records and when I'm not touring and whatnot. And yeah, check, mission accomplished. But
yeah,
definitely. I celebrated 10 years last year, and I kept saying like that's like 90 in podcast years.
Totally. Yeah, I think technically my first one was in 2015, but it was like December. So I need to go back and look at it, but I think 2016 was really kind of when I first started doing it. At some point, we were close even in episodes, but I've taken breaks and you've kept it going. So hence your...
I have now. I definitely... I mean, I always take breaks when touring. Like I don't... and then I guess it's notable that I do them live too.
Yeah.
So it's rare for them not to be live. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But I don't do the thing where I bank a bunch of them, mostly because it's literally just me. You know, I mean, that must be great if you have like a team behind you or something, but it's always been just me.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes a crack show a little bit, but there's definitely been swaths where I just was like, okay, I'm not, but pre-2020, I would say, where I just like didn't do episodes for a little while and whatever. Because as you look at people's shows that started like a year after or something, it's like, oh, they're like episode 800 or something. It's like, well, they've done an episode literally every week.
I know.
I also actively play music and make records and stuff. And I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just saying, like, I never worry about what other shows are up to. You know, I just try to do my own thing and have it be something that provides value for people. Make the show you want to listen to. You know.
Yeah. 2020 was an interesting one for me because obviously during COVID, it was a lot of otherwise musicians that'd be otherwise touring, I guess I should say, obviously home. So the net was wider, but then there was sort of a slippery slope where it seemed like a lot of drummers I knew were also doing their own podcasts. A lot of people, like, podcasts really seem to have proliferated around that time.
Well, that I noticed. I definitely noticed that. It's hard not to notice that.
Yeah.
Right? But I didn't notice it being drummers specifically. But that is when yours came to my attention. Even though I know it's like, oh, this guy's been doing it for a while. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But I think it's also something where if it's a show, it's already been around and been grounded and had a back catalog, people just suddenly had time for them, right? They had time to listen to them. Has everything to do with the quote unquote success of Protonic Reversal. And it was just, what else was it going to do? I stepped it up big time. I started doing episodes like one a day for a while.
Yeah.
And that was just because like we were on tour when the pandemic kind of like hit hard and we got through like 2 shows. And then it was like, oh no, we got to go back. Like, this is like, I don't know what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And it's weird because everyone thinks that they know now. It's like, no, we know after the fact. By the time people, we don't know. Like, I don't know. It seems crazy. And then like the governor gives an order for everyone to stay home like an hour before you arrive at the venue. It's like, oh, okay. I guess this is real. I don't know.
Crazy.
But yeah, I mean, that we had so much stuff planned for 2020, like every band. I mean, you know, It's nothing new under the sun on that. That's like a great bonding experience.
Absolutely. Well, flash forward with the new record, Conan Neutron and his secret friends, correct? One of the secret friends being Dale Crover, that's played on all the records thus far. Am I right with that?
100%. 100%.
Okay.
It's always Dale Crover on drums, Tony Ash on bass, Toshi Kasai producing. Correct.
Nice.
And the secret friends. Although Rick Froberg specifically, really, his is better. I'm like, cool, but that's not the band name, Rick.
Right.
Like, it's too late to change it.
Yeah, I love it that you've had Dale on those throughout the years.
Me too, man.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like rock's greatest drummer is like, the drummer who plays on my songs.
Yeah,
freaking cool. Like, 1 degree away from Nirvana. Okay, that's weird to think about, but like, yeah, I mean, he's like, annoyingly, he's an amazing guitar player too.
I've heard this.
How dare he?
Yeah, exactly.
No, he's a great songwriter in his own right, and he does. I think he does more backup vocals on this one than any of the other ones.
Okay,
but it's a creative process. They're my songs, but everybody brings their very deep and special talents to them to create something that's greater than the sum of its parts. Which cannot give enough credit to Toshi Kasai, who has produced every single thing we've ever done, and is a huge part of the band, and frankly, like one of the great undersung producers, engineers, whatever you want to call it in music. And people attribute him just being in heavy music. It's like, no, he's all about like harmony and like and so it's like, yeah, he's great at all the heavy music stuff. And of course they know that because of Tool and Melvins and et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Toshi's just, I mean, he's just astounding. He should be winning a Grammy. I don't know if this is going to be the one that gets it for him, but we'll see. Jury's out. I haven't picked out my suit yet. Let's put it that way.
You mentioned this new one, that one being The Way of the Neutron, the new record.
That's right. So this is the first dedicated full length for Conan Neutron, The Secret Friend, since 2020's Dark Passengers. So this is the 4th full length record. Asterisks. There's a 2 LP singles collection and a split LP with Long that came out. Was it last year or year before that? I think it's last year. And a split EP with Radical Retaliator Strategy as well. So there's been releases, but this is the first full length since 2020, which is 5 years ago, everybody. Just so you know. At the time of this recording anyway, which I thought about the other day. I'm like, no. Really?
Yep.
5 years ago. I was like, yeah, it's 2025. 25 minus 20 is 5.
Yep.
Holy moly.
With getting like Dale and the other guys up to speed, do you basically, with that process on your end prior to getting into the studio, are you just demoing songs with loose drums or whatever, and then it's like, guys, bring your style in? This is kind of the loose or not so loose arrangement essentially of what the song is?
Yeah, arrangements are probably 90 to 95% there by the time we record. I have a robust demoing process I do on my own. The first record, the placeholder drums were laughable.
Oh yeah.
Like laughably bad. But so was the technology, right?
Right.
It's gotten better over the years. Yeah, Crover used to bust my balls on that. I'm like, dude, come on. It's just like, I know you're not going to do this.
It's a placeholder, Dale. Calm the fuck down.
Yeah, come on. Cut me some slack, dude. But it's gotten better over the years. And also, I guess it was 2019, because I got, specifically for the purposes of touring, this really awesome 70s blue Vistalite drum kit.
Nice.
I actually sat down for the first time in my adult life and decided I was going to teach myself drums. And if without any, like, I'm going to go play in a band or anything, but just like, I want to be a better songwriter, and I want to not gravitate towards writing quote unquote impossible parts.
Right.
So, and I did, and I'm what you would call what I call a drunk at a party good on drums, which is that if you're at like a party and there's a drum set and there's some drunk guy around, like, oh, you're really good, man. It's like, no, you're really drunk. I'm like holding like a basic like Ramones or Devo beat. There's nothing, like, believe me, I know drummers. I ain't no drummer, but it's not quite embarrassing either. But yeah, it was specifically for the purposes of making the songs better. And so to answer the actual question, yeah, I demo everything pretty extensively. I send it to the guys, they check it out, get an idea of like what it is. And then the real action just starts happening when we play in the room. And it's usually, basics are usually 2 or 3 takes, maybe. We don't want to like kill the energy. So like, cause I think if you just do take after take after take after take, it's like, oh my God, what is music anymore?
Absolutely.
And so that's usually what you hear. And then we did the vocals, we did the overdubs, all that stuff. And there you go. Usually it's a very quick process. This record, we took a lot of time with. And some of that time was just like, hey, let's try a mix like this. Like, not like this is better or we're fixing something, whatever. Like, no, let's just try it. Let's try it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try it that way. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Or, oh yeah, that's cool. But I don't know, like going back and forth. I normally hate that. Like, I'm very much a like, boom, get it in. It's recorded. Boom, mixed. Boom, mastered. Oh, on tour. Like that's just kind of like very mechanized. But it was,
yeah.
Toshi pointed out, I was like, well, it's good not to be rushed, and you might find that you have something even more special if you can spend a little more time on it. I'm like, okay, fine. I guess we just put out like the split with Lung. Sure, we can do that. So the result is this: of all the records I've done a lot, not just Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends. I was in a band called Replicator, Mount Vicious, Victory and Associates, Action Chief Exists, Household Gods with Vern from Unwound, and Dave Pajo of Slint. I think this is my favorite record I've ever done of any of them.
Okay.
And I feel like you should always feel that way. If you see a record and you're like, this is not my best work. What are you even doing? I mean, but I've played it for other people and they're like, wow, this might be your best record. I'm like, okay, cool. Thank you. Because like, I'm sitting over here being like, I think we just like made something like really cool. Like even outside the scope of like Art of Murder is definitely the most popular record, the Hannibal Lecter concept record.
Yeah.
Like it's sold out twice. And
wow.
Which is crazy because there was no PR in it all. It's all word of mouth.
Yeah.
But it's great. I mean, I love that record, and they're different, but I feel like this is the best. This is the best one. So nice feeling. So that's demos.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
What studio did y'all record it at?
It's always the Sound of Sirens, which is Toshi Kasai Studio in Los Angeles.
Gotcha.
And it's the same place Melvin's record. It's very like it's not set up like electrical audio or something, right? There isn't like an astounding like drum room or anything, but God, does he know how to dial that room in? Okay. It's I mean, it's not just our records. Like listen to any of the stuff that comes out of there. It's like, wow, that sounds great. Right. That's just knowing what you have and just having a good ear, in my opinion. But it's a very comfortable place to record. I've done it many times over the years. It's not actually done yet. Do you know the band Dead from Australia?
I don't think so.
Oh, they're great. They're amazing. They're lifers. You should absolutely have Jem, the drummer, on. Okay. On this show. You would love him. You guys would totally get along. Nice. I thought it was going to be an EP. It might be an LP at this point. Record with them. Because I did a tour with them that basically was, yeah, I'll drive you. Yeah, like whatever. Like they're Australians. I was like, yeah, I'll drive you on this last leg of the tour. And they're like, oh, you want to play with us too? And it's like, yeah. Okay, sure. I don't. And then like I learned all the songs. Like, oh yeah, we're not doing those. We're doing these instead. I'm like, oh, cool. This isn't like pants shittingly terrifying at all. All right. Yeah. And then we like went and like at the end of it, it's like, oh, let's record some stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we're gonna record like some of the stuff that they haven't. That's older that they're revisiting that like I added some stuff to. Oh no, we're not gonna do any of that. I'm like, all right, okay. So I brought in 2 songs that I kind of wrote for them, and then they were like, "Oh, let's just improv." I'm like, oh, "I'm terrible at improv." Okay, and we came up with something really cool because it kind of sounds. It sounds a little bit like them, and it sounds a little bit like my stuff, and kind of like something entirely different. And we came up with some of it is insane. I can't wait for people to hear it. I mean, obviously I can't wait because people hear the Secret Friends record first, but yeah, I can't wait to finish it. Let's put it that way. But it's one of those things where they're real busy and I'm real busy. So I'm like, oh yeah, Christ, we got to get that out. Yeah. But it's a weird record and like in a cool way. And it was a different, like, that's not a thing I normally do. Like, I'm not like, yeah, I'll sit in with you guys. Yeah. No one's looking for that from me. Right. I'm not looking for that for myself, but I love those guys. So it was an honor to play with them and even for just a few shows. And yeah, we made a weird little record that I think is pretty cool. So for the Way of the Neutron, are there any plans or specific dates or general places that you know that you're going that you can even talk about as of yet? Yeah. So we have so the time of this recording we have so we get 2 shows in LA, well, one San Clemente, one in LA. Then we're playing Chicago, we're playing Madison, Kenosha, and Milwaukee for a thing called Wild Antics, which is named after one of our songs. It's like an all-day affair.
Cool.
And those last 4 are with Mr. Flies, who are great. And then April, we're going to Japan.
Oh, nice.
Amazing. And I'm really excited for that. And
have you been there yet?
No, I haven't been anywhere, man. I mean, I've been all over this dumbass country and some in Canada, but never. So that's exciting. That's going to be 2 weeks. And then I think that the plan right now is May into June, we're going to have East Coast and Mountain West and West Coast, which is sort of based around Caterwaul.
Okay.
Which is a music festival that I throw with my a couple other people, and it's very cool. Like Hello All City's playing. Young Widows.
I saw that lineup. Yeah, the lineup looks great.
So that's the current plan right now up to like June.
Yeah.
And then after that, we'll see. We're not hitting the South. I think we're going to hit the South sometime in the fall. I'm not sure when. I know we're doing one thing. We're doing one thing in Atlanta. I want to say it's November, maybe.
Okay. I'll be on the lookout for it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll holler at you for sure.
Right
we're
on.
overdue to get back down there. We haven't been, I don't think we've been down to Georgia since maybe 2019.
Wow.
So it's been a while.
Yeah.
So I love down there. There's some great bands down there. It's a cool place.
With your band, it's a little hard to pinpoint y'all. I feel like there's a little bit of like maybe some West Coast sort of stoner rock. There's a little bit of straight rock. There's a little bit of noise rock. It's fairly hard to pinpoint like any specific subgenre. But I guess my question from there is, when the band was sort of first getting out and playing, were there any bands that y'all gravitated towards that you felt were sort of kindred spirits, or were y'all just complete oddballs, or?
I'm glad you said that, because I feel that way, especially anytime I have to write a bio and they're like, "Oh, what bands do you sound like?" I'm like, "Man, I don't know." I mean, I can name you like 10 bands I love, and
right.
But people could be like, "What, Devo and Cheap Trick and Queens of the Stone Age? What's this guy talking about?" It's like, well, listen to the music. That's
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
But yeah, I've always kind of felt like we're the odd band out a lot of times. Like, I mean, with the records you put on Learning Curve, it's like, okay, we're the rock band on the noise rock label. Right. Well, and that's fine. Like, I like all those guys. I like those bands. I was in a band for 8 years called Replicator, like most of my 20s.
Yeah.
That was abjectly noise rock. Even I probably would have bristled at the term then.
Yeah.
But that's not what Secret Friends does. It does something different. And it's not just stoner rock. Right.
Yeah.
Like I thought Red Fang, that's like getting in the neighborhood of what we're doing. Torch.
Yeah. Love both of those bands.
Because there's a lot of hooks. There's a lot of like pop hooks to it too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like I just have like a kind of unorthodox way of writing that's like, again, I had tried to like Devo Poisoning, where it's just like, oh no, it's like I can't, I have to throw in some weird thing where it's like, oh no, that's weird.
Right.
What was that? And because for me, that's interesting. I'm keeping interest for myself and for the players. But yeah, I struggle with being, because so many bands are like, oh yeah, it sounds like this and this. Great. Mm-hmm. I can't do that with this band. I'm like, it's a big weird rock band, man. I don't know. Oh, does it sound like the Melvins? Not really. I mean, sometimes maybe like the heavier stuff, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But like, no, not really. It's just like, that's a good touch point. Obviously, one of the guys plays in the Melvins, so you're gonna, there's some Croverisms there. But
yeah,
if the kids like Cheap Trick, and they should,
mm-hmm.
then maybe be like Cheap Trick, because that's like a big rock band that like, oh, they do like weird unorthodox stuff, and here's this crazy guitar part that you wouldn't think would be there. But yeah. I mean, at that point, you're talking to somebody who works in a record store or plays in a band, one or the other.
For real.
So I don't know. If let me know, please, by all means, because I find that part of like the process tortuous. Name 3 bands you sound like. I don't know.
Right. And if you are like maybe a little self-conscious about being maybe a little derivative, it's not like you're going to give up that information. You're probably hoping that they don't make that direct correlation, right? But who fucking knows,
and here's the thing: I almost wish I was, because then at least I would have the answer to that question. Like because I think of myself and I'm like, well, you tell me, man. Like, what am I gonna do? What am I do? Say the Pixies? What does that mean? Does it sound like the Pixies? Well, I guess, and a little bit, but no. Yeah. I mean, all the things that I could mention. It's like, oh, here's one of like 5 things I'm going to mention, and it's like maybe 20% of that. And I mean, I think that's probably good. Ultimately, it's just bad if people don't know you because you don't have like an elevator pitch, or at least I don't. So I say big, weird rock music, and like just
there you go. Absolutely,
because the bigness of it is like definitely that's intentional. That's like, you know, the sort of small scale arena rock. I like that one. That was good.
That's a good one.
You know, and but it's like for freaks, nerds, weirdos, and malcontents.
Yeah, I like it. That's a good one as well. You and I are fairly close in age. Did you? And it seems like from sort of looking at some of the people that we've both spoken to on our podcast, there's a fellow noise rock fascination, I would say. At least, you know, both for me, of course, and listening to it, and just the characters as well. It's just been fun talking to all those people throughout the years. But as with you growing up in the 80s, were you hip to cool music, like cool, quote unquote, that has aged better? Or were you straight up like I was, where it was hair metal? And then in 87, it was like Guns N' Roses and the Cult. And that was amazing. Of course, there was some Metallica thrown in there, you know, some of the early thrash and shit, but yeah.
So I grew up in a musical household where my parents were both people that listen to music. So I got played a lot of like Led Zeppelin, Sabbath, Neil Young, so on and so on. Like as a child, AC/DC, Van Halen was around. My dad loved Van Halen.
Nice.
But I was really into like comic books and like sci-fi, like Stephen King books. Like that was sort of my thing. The thing that was, and I was into all that stuff, but it was when I heard Nirvana that I was like, oh, okay, this is different. This hits different. And so that led me to like Sonic Youth and Melvins, ironically, Fugazi, and like just like the whole world, Butthole Surfers, Scratch Acid, all that stuff that I was like, oh my God, like this is great. And then when I finally moved out, because I grew up in nowhere, California. I grew up in Talco Modesto.
Okay.
That was an hour and a half away from the Bay Area and a world apart. Basically. And it's hard to describe now. It's like, no, you just didn't have access to like punk records or whatever. Like you had to I had to go to a different place to go find them.
Of course.
Buy them maybe based on the album cover, and not even know what it sounds like. Right? Oh, that name set. What the hell does that sound like? Let's check that out. Jesus Lizard. What is that?
Yeah, for real.
I mean, I listened to Jesus Lizard before I ever realized it was like, oh, this is like 3 of the same people from Scratch Acid. That's crazy. Or 2 of the same people from Scratch Acid.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even know, because how would I know? There were like pictures of like glossy. Like
oh yeah, there was none of that in those. Yeah.
So I kind of came, I guess, a little bit later in the fact that like I was like 17 on is like just when my world kind of opened up, and then from there I just, you know, I once working at a record store, having access to music, I was like, okay, so you know what's great is like Thin Lizzy. There's definitely more than like Boys Are Back in Town.
Oh yeah.
You know, I love Miles Davis.
Sure.
You know, I love Hank Williams Sr. So on and so on, and just really laying into the whole world of music and what's out there. And you know, I never had a hair metal phase. It just wasn't my deal. I acknowledge it exists. I like Kiss, or I like, let's put it this way, I like about 12 Kiss songs.
That's like twice as many as I like. And that's an exaggeration. I don't know that I could tell you 4 that I like. Sorry, guys. Right. I know they were really influential to a lot of people and a gateway for a lot of things, but I've never really been able to listen to much Kiss. Sorry.
Yeah. And that actually took a while for me to kind of percolate. I had big punk rock brain for a long time. There was like such and such couldn't be, oh, I can't listen to that. That's terrible. And
sure.
Whatever. And there's still things I'm like, am I ever going to give the Eagles a fair shake? Probably not. They're repulsive human beings. But like, you know, anytime you have, you know, that's a sick riff, man.
It is.
That's all Joe Walsh.
Right.
So there you go. There's an out.
Yeah.
There's an out for us a-holes that are...
Yeah.
So that's sort of like basically 91 to 94 was sort of like my entry point into punk rock, which is basically almost exactly corresponds to when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And then after I worked at the record store, it was game over. I was like, you know, music nerd for life.
Yeah, totally. Who were some of your early guitar heroes? I mean, I remember because I started with Rollins' band. And by the way, I saw you interviewed Chris Haskett, which I thought was cool.
Man. Yeah, he was that dude's rad. I was like, I was so stoked to talk to him. Into the Silence was a big one for me, man.
Oh, it was huge. I was
record.
obsessed with that record and saw him live around that time and everything, and went back to Black Flag sort of after that.
Same, which is crazy because I got into Circle Jerks, and for years I never heard Black Flag. Circle Jerks was the first punk band I got into, and then I was like, oh yeah, I need to listen to Black Flag, but there was just a Black Flag cassettes in Modesto. Get out of here. So, but I listened to Rollins, man. I was like, oh yeah, that's that guy that like. Oh yeah, what was it? Black Flag? Yeah, I need to listen to that.
Yeah,
so I heard Rollins band first too. Yeah, same way. I mean, I think I probably heard like Six Pack.
Okay, yeah,
right?
yeah,
you know,
sure.
Whereas like I heard
TV Party Tonight or one of those. Yeah,
TV Party. Yeah, like one of the ones everyone knows.
Right, but when I heard Black Flag for the first time, I was thinking like, I can't tell if this guitar player sucks or if it's just so much attitude that I just have to accept that that's what it is. And then it took me a while to really just kind of accept the way that Greg Ginn was playing, because his solos were so wacky and seemingly like atonal and just out in every fucking, like shooting a firework, you know. It was like Saturn missiles of like guitar notes, atonal guitar notes at times. And but then after a while, I was like, man, I got to give it to the guy. No one sounds like him. And Jesus Christ, the attitude coming out of that guy's hands.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that, because Greg Ginn is, I don't think I sound anything like him, but he was definitely an influential guitar player to me for that exact same reason, where it's like, oh no, like this is, you can do anything with this. Like this is great. And just the sheer ferocity of it like blew my mind. Like I think I saw the Target video of like them playing or something. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
So I love all that stuff. I was very drawn to anything that was like super aggressive. I think the Gestalt entity of Thurston Moore and Lee Ronaldo and Sonic Youth, that's a huge one for me.
Right.
Same thing with Ian and Guy from Fugazi.
Of course.
For sure. I got relatively obsessive with John Reese circa Drive Like Jehu and trying to rip off so much of his stuff. Failed miserably, and then ended up with my own my own stuff. Dwayne Dennison.
Of course.
That's a big one on me. Brett Bradford. Roland S. Howard. Huge for me. Roland S. Howard from the Birthday Party. I was a big, still am, Birthday Party head.
Yeah.
Yeah. In more recent times, Marnie Stern, I think, is incredible. Alan Johannes is amazing. Also, just to shout out somebody who I'm now buds with through the show. It's like I listen back to like that 11 stuff. It's like, how were they not bigger? Like they were big, but they weren't like.
That was with Jack Irons on drums, correct?
Jack Irons, yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of a mysterious record, because it's got a lot of the makings of something that could have been pretty big. And then when you listen to it, I missed it completely. I don't recall hearing any of those songs when they came out. And a buddy of mine told me, because I was saying that I was a fan of Jack Irons, whether it was like early Chili Peppers or even some of the stuff that he did with Pearl Jam. I just really like the guy's playing. And
he's a good player. Yeah. Of course.
And they were like, do you know this 11 record? And I was like, absolutely not. And I went back to check. I was like, I'm shocked that I knew none of this.
Oh, good. Like
it really is.
And I went back to like him working with Queens of the Stone Age. And then I went back to like the kind of down the line. I was like, oh, and he also does any of this stuff with Lanigan, and then I was like, oh, what was that? And I was always like, what was that, man? He was saying it's a one-word name. God, why can't I remember it for years? And then I finally remembered, and I was like, oh man, this is badass. And like he's such a exquisite hooky guitar player and unique in his way. And just amazing. But that's one that's I thought about as I kind of consider myself more of a songwriter now.
Right.
Like that's kind of the stuff I vibe on. Bob from Devo, a big one for me.
Sure.
Like actually both Bobs, but like just like I mean I'd be disingenuous not to mention that.
Yeah.
That's I feel like there's a lot of Malcolm Young and what I do.
Not
Angus Young, Malcolm.
Right. Straight rhythm playing.
But just like really like anchoring the song with like the rhythm, just the solid right hand rhythm of the guitar.
Yeah, he was an unsung hero in AC/DC. I would say
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Honestly, all those guys, I talk about it pretty frequently. As simplistic as their sort of individual parts were, it, like as you said, anchoring is really a great word for it, because they absolutely did it. I mean, again, Phil Rudd's playing, as simple and as air drumming friendly as it is for any non-drummer ever. It's still like, the guy played maybe 5 fills over every AC/DC record ever.
Yeah, no Phil Rudd.
No Phil Rudd. No Phil and Rudd. But man,
so good.
That formula, wow, man. Especially for me, the Bon Scott era stuff, I just love.
Oh, dude.
Jesus.
That is, so I'm all about Bon Scott era, and then Back in Black's great.
Yeah.
Punk rockers get a clue.
Yeah.
And then after that, they have maybe one Goods record worth of songs spread out for the rest of the discography.
Right.
But Back in Black is one of the greatest rock and roll records of all time, and I say that as a Bon Scott devotee.
The production, especially of getting bigger drums.
Yeah. And how Malcolm plays like the same part, but it's like different, and how it hits differently. Oh, it's exquisite. And like as a songwriter, when people turn their nose up at AC/DC, that's dumb. They do the same song. Fuck out of here. Go grow a beard, get a belly for your black t-shirt, and play some dumb doom riffs, you idiot. Thank you.
Right. Oh my God.
AC/DC rocks.
Absolutely, dude. I was also looking at just some of the previous guests that you've had on the podcast, and you mentioned Fugazi earlier. Guy, is it Picciotto? I'm never sure.
Guy Picciotto, yeah.
Picciotto, there it is. That's a very Italian name. I was like, I'm not quite certain how to do this, but Picciotto, there it is.
I think I said it on the show, and he didn't correct me, but also my name's Conan. Maybe
right.
Maybe just get sick of people, I don't know. But what a sweetheart of a guy.
I really liked your interview with him. I would have been nervous. I sort of when I interviewed Brendan Canty, the drummer, and he couldn't have been a nicer guy.
Oh, Brendan's a sweetheart.
And he was just such a sweet dude. And the Fugazi was one of those bands that I always say that I felt maybe didn't quite get the credit that was due to them, in that, aside from like all the ethical stuff and this and that and the other that they were associated with, just sort of reinventing, which is a very punk thing, sort of the parameters of what punk audibly could even be. And like to have the balls to even do that.
And to do it on your own terms.
On your own terms.
Like, because if they had, decided that that was not important to them, they would have been the biggest band of the world. Are you kidding me? Like, I mean, how would they not be?
Yeah.
And I feel like we're one, I don't know, song placement in a cool movie away from the kids like really discovering Fugazi and being like, oh my God, this is the best band that ever was. And I was like, yeah, welcome to the party, pal.
I was lucky to see them a few times back in the day. I think the first tour that I saw them on was on Steady Died and Nothing. So that would have been around like 91.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Cool. Yeah, I don't think I saw them till like 95 or something, but I saw them, I think, 4 times.
Okay, yeah, and I saw them 3. I told Brendan about it. It was ridiculous because back in the day, their shows were fairly secret. Sometimes it was hard pre-internet to get all the information that you needed. So we drove. We were
Ask a Punk.
Yeah, we were in New Orleans, and we drove to not Shreveport, it was Lafayette, Louisiana. We get there and they're like, oh no, the show's tomorrow. So then we drove back another 2 hours and then we just missed it because we were late. It was a day show. We didn't know it was.
No.
So I would have seen him 4 times. That third time was so stupid. We drove 2 days to get there and never even saw him. But yeah,
I can tell. I'll make it very quick. I have a Fugazi story. Seen them in Chicago with Shellac and the X. It was a 2-night show. And
wow.
We happened to, Replicator was out there and playing, and we just obviously made time for that.
Yeah.
And they had what they would consider a bad show, in the fact that like Guy's amp took a gainer, like it fell forward, and like the head, you saw like a pop, like tubes like exploded mid song for whatever they were playing. And so, like, it's the only time I ever saw Fugazi, quote unquote, shook. And they weren't even shook. They just adjusted. Like, they kind of pivoted to a couple songs off, like, the first record that, like, Guy only sings on or whatever.
Right.
Show never really stopped. You know, the everybody kind of, new head, put it back up again. And they were back on point in, like, within 2 songs.
Damn.
But for me, and by the way, our show, as I say in Chicago, the Replicator show, horrible. A demoralizer in every possible way.
Okay.
Like, kind of like, why am I doing this? And this was like one of the first times we had played off the West Coast too.
Yeah.
I should say. And I was down, man. And so like seeing them have that, and then we were staying at my friend Bob's house, and he threw a barbecue, and they were there, the X was there. David Yeah was there. I was talking to Britt Walfer from Slint for like 20 minutes without realizing who he was.
Okay,
He just looks like a dude.
Right.
But the most important thing about that isn't all those names I just dropped. It's that I got to see them have like the band huddle of like, hey, how do we make sure that doesn't happen again? Like Fugazi, biggest band in the world to me. They're like, okay, so, all right, what are we going to do? We got to make sure. And I was like, oh, wow. And me with like having our terrible show, I was like, oh, that was inspiring in a way. And the next night, I swear to God, dude, I actually saw them 5 times. Next night was not only the best Fugazi show I ever saw, it is one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life, period.
Wow.
And that was huge to me because that showed like, hey, even like people that you consider like gods, if you considered people gods that were musicians, they can still stumble. And like, it's not about how you fall, it's about how you pick yourself back up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, kind of going through your back catalog of some of your guests, I stumbled as well upon Trey Spruance from Mr. Bungle. And I was super interested in hearing from that guy as someone who got to see Mr. Bungle back in the day and was always like fascinated by that band and with his work with Secret Chiefs 3. And I love it that you even mentioned him playing on the King for a Day, Faith No More record and him kind of talking about that. That was cool to hear from him. Another guy that I don't know didn't really know what to expect from him, but he seemed like a really nice guy. I mean, he strikes me as someone who could be real eccentric. But there he was. He seemed like pretty down to earth and pretty cool.
Absolutely. I think it was interesting seeing that he like comes from the world of like shredder metal. And it's like, oh, well, that makes sense in its way. But you took this weird wizardly turn down the line and and ended up like just making your own lexicon for everything. Big Dostoevsky fan. Okay. Cool.
Right.
I wouldn't have had that on my bingo card, but here we are. Yeah. Good dude. And like, oh my God. But it's like, if you can't ever look at the comments. People get mad about the dumbest thing. It's like, look, start your own show and get back to me. All right.
God, I know. Thankfully, they've been relatively nice. I feel like they go relatively easy on me, but I definitely get some bad ones. And I don't want to reply to it, but I'm also like, sometimes it's like, sure. Yeah, exactly. Like you said. Yeah. You should try doing one yourself. Just one.
Let's hear you do better. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let's hear you just talking to a mic. Maybe you sound like a dickhead chipmunk who's socially awkward to the nth degree.
Yeah. and it's kind of, right, exactly. And it's sort of like, all right, well, all of your quote unquote heroes think that, that this show is good and that like I'm a cool person to talk to. So why don't you F off? And I think that's kind of one of the appeals of the show is it isn't and that's something that you have as well, which is just like you actively play music. It's not like it's something in like that you used to do or you remember how to do. It's like, no, I'm literally doing it right now. I'm actively doing it. And doesn't necessarily mean that going on world tours or anything. But I think when you have that shorthand of being someone that, again, it's not in the past, it's not an academic concern. It's not like someone coming at it like they're from Mars or something. And that's, I think that you get a different kind of conversation. People can relax a little bit almost. Right. So I think that counts for a lot for me.
Yeah, I agree, man. There was another one that I was looking through again and going back. I forget his name, but he was, I think, the guitarist vocalist of Victims Family.
Ralph Spight. Yeah, dude, he's a legend in the Bay Area.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Dude, yeah, he's like, it's like, and he is no joke, man. That dude is like, I got into Victims. I was already a fully formed adult by the time I got into Victims Family, but I was like, oh, what is this guy up to? Crazy. And he plays in Jello's band.
Wow.
In Guantanamo School of Medicine. Yeah, nice. Ralph Spight's a badass and also sweetheart of a dude. I actually saw him. It wasn't the last time we played SF, but time before that when we played with McCluskey.
Okay.
I saw him there and like it's just fucking sweetheart of a guy too.
Yeah.
Like real thoughtful shredder.
I agree. I mean, that record, White Bread Blues, was the one that I was kind of introduced to.
Yeah.
And God, there's some ripping, shredding, like killer, kind of like almost No Means No-esque, like punk rock with chops,
So, and in retrospect, I didn't understand this at the time. Yeah, because that's the one I'm like, oh my God. I think John Wright, did he produce that one? I think. I think
interesting.
Yeah, so they're like buds. So if you ever listen to the John Wright,
okay, John Wright of No Means No,
No Means No. Yes. If you listen, we talk about that. I think on the first one, I've had him on a couple times. I had him on when the book came out too with the author.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, of course you guys. Victim's family, no means no. Duh. Yeah. All right. You guys like to hang out together? I wonder why.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Shredding ass
Sound like
punk
in the
rock.
same clubhouse. Yeah, exactly. Like whatever. But Ralph's. But that's a perfect example. Like with the show that I try to, not just do the people that everyone knows, but the people that maybe you should know.
Yeah.
And that maybe people can find some value. I mean, look, in an ideal world, I'm somebody that you should know. So it's like it ain't no different from me. I'm
right.
out there hustling like everyone else. This content farm.
Yeah, man. Again, Way of the Neutron. What's the release date we're looking at here?
March. God, I want to say 20th. I don't have it in front of me. Sorry.
Inside of a month.
Inside of a month. Yeah. The pre-orders either will be going up, or I don't know when you're dropping this, or are already up. Yeah, with the first single, Who Dares?
Okay.
The 27th of February. And then Sharks Keep Moving, second single right after that. And The Villain of Circumstance right after that. And then out to the big wide world. Very, very excited for people to hear this record. I feel like I've been going insane this entire winter, just being like, I can't wait for this record to be out. It'd be nice for other human beings to be able to hear this. I hope if people get 1/10 of the enjoyment out of it that I do, it'll be very happy.
Awesome. Sounds good, man.
And we're gonna take the show on the road, and we got a lot of cool stuff. And I can't even talk about all of it. But if you follow neutronfriends.com, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com is probably the best place to go. And I'm on all of the social medias at Conan Neutron, the Conan Neutron. It's not that hard to find.
Gotcha. All right.
And I try to keep it consistent as far as that goes. We're going to be announcing a whole bunch of tour dates coming up as they sort of materialize. And yeah, it's great to be on the show. I feel like a fraud being on this show since I can barely play drums, but like I still.
You gave it the old college try, man. You got a kit. That's the first step,
I got a kit. It's a too nice of a kit for a guitar player to have.
Right.
And I can play perfunctory, again, drunk at a party, good drums. And I did it specifically, and I think drummers would appreciate this, to hone my skills as a songwriter to not write drum parts that are stupid and or impossible to play.
Gotcha.
I know Dale appreciated it. He's like, I can tell. Like,
nice. There you go. All right, Conan. Well, again, man, it was good talking to you. Thanks for coming on.
Jody.
We'll stay in touch. Maybe catch up when y'all come through Atlanta at some point. And
love that.
Enjoy 2025, my guy.
All right. Word to you too, brother.
Yeah, man. All right, that does it for this one. Thanks again for tuning in, and thanks to Conan for rapping about all things music, punk rock, noise rock, and podcasting. We'll catch you on the next one. Crash, bang, boom.